All right, here we are. It is Tuesday, April 16th, just a shade before 1 p.m. Thank you for joining me. Hey, we're going to be talking about the heavy rain potential that's already occurring actually over southern Minnesota and much of now western Wisconsin and, of course, Iowa. We're also going to give you a little update on the severe weather situation that is starting to break over Iowa, and I'm concerned that some of that severe weather is going to sneak into southern Minnesota. So we'll get into that here in just a little bit. Hey, I wanted to just quickly tell you that this is being brought to you by Weather Safe Restoration. That's Mike and his team there at Weather Safe. They take care of exterior buildings, whether it be your house or businesses, roof damage, all types of exterior issues on properties. That's what Weather Safe does. They do a great job. And of course, they service much of the upper Midwest. That would include Minnesota and Wisconsin. So thanks, Mike, and your team at Weather Safe there, because, yeah, we have some weather to talk about here. And let's get right into it. This is your water vapor imagery now. This is the moisture channel from outer space. Reason why I show you this is because the areas of blue and red, that's some significant amounts of moisture right now in the mid and upper level layers of our atmosphere. Hence the reason why so much rain has been falling this morning and into this early afternoon over a good chunk of Minnesota and now reaching into western Wisconsin, of course, Iowa too. But probably more importantly is look at this dry surge of air indicative of the yellow and orange colors. It's what we call a dry slot now that is punching into western Iowa. And this is, again, this is important because usually it's on the edge of a dry slot is where severe weather likes to develop, especially during the heat of the afternoon. And I'm very concerned about this area of Iowa, basically the heart of Iowa on south into Missouri, and then maybe even further south into Arkansas. Why does this affect Minnesota and Wisconsin? Why are we talking about it? Well, because you can see the trajectory of these clouds and this moisture is to the north. So whatever develops here in Iowa is going to head north into Minnesota, southern Minnesota, and western Wisconsin. So just keep that in mind. Hence the reason why we need to probably be at least a little bit concerned about severe weather, even in southern Minnesota and portions of western Wisconsin. Okay, here's your visible satellite loop, and you can clearly see that dry slot now punching into southwestern and western Iowa. And I'll put it on the last frame here. Look at all the clouds over Minnesota, western Wisconsin, and a good chunk of northern Iowa. That's going to limit the destabilization of the atmosphere this afternoon. So I don't think the significant, or at least the tornadic activity, I don't think that'll make it up here into Minnesota and western Wisconsin. We just don't have enough instability. But I do feel that as this area here in central Iowa clears this afternoon, that's where the most intense storms are going to develop, and then they will race to the north and a little bit to the east into southern Minnesota. Hence the reason why we could still get some severe weather here in southeastern Minnesota. And I've actually highlighted that here in this map. I think the severe weather potential could extend up even into the southern metro of the Twin Cities here. But as further south you go towards the I-90 corridor in Minnesota and southwestern Wisconsin, that's where your severe weather is going to ramp up. And then, of course, as you head south, further south into Iowa, much of Iowa is under the gun this afternoon and evening for severe weather. Hey, let's look at the guidance. This is the NAM 3K guidance from this morning. And we're looking at low-level moisture right now. And check out the fetch of moisture coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico, straight north into eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. This is for later this afternoon here. This just is a pretty good source of moisture for heavy rain over our region, and I'll show you that heavy rain map here in just a little bit. But to go along with it, here are the winds at about 20 to 25,000 feet. Look how strong they are. They're up near 100 knots, surging north into Iowa and portions of southern Minnesota, and usually it's on the nose of a mid-level jet streak like this is where you get intense lift. Hence the reason why I'm worried not only about heavy rain, but severe weather in these areas here of Minnesota, Iowa, and western Wisconsin. And when we drill down further into the atmosphere, we go down to about 5,000 to 7,000 feet. Check out the low-level jet that continues to transport moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico on north into southern Minnesota. Winds are at near 80 knots in and around the Twin Cities metro, just above the surface of the earth, of course. That's a real strong low-level jet, hence the reason why confidence is sky high that we are going to get some heavy rain along with thunderstorms. And of course, the question is whether we will be able to get some severe weather out of this. Here are the CAPE levels in the atmosphere, at least the most unstable portions of the atmosphere. And you can clearly see that the higher CAPE values or energy values are down here in Iowa, where you're up around 2,000 to 3,000 joules of CAPE down here. So this is the most fertile area for severe storm development. But once again, when these storms develop later this afternoon, they will quickly move north into southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Hence the reason why we need to be concerned about severe weather, even in southern Minnesota. And this is a supercell composite. Tells you the best areas or locations where supercells could develop, and that would be in the Des Moines area, extending east to the Quad Cities, Davenport, Moline, Rock Island, Illinois. The supercell structures, at least the signatures, are not very good here in southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Hence the reason why, if and when we get thunderstorms, they'll mostly be in the form of a line of storms or a squall line that comes through southern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And when you look at the lifted index, this is at the surface, you can see where the areas where they clear out, which is here over central Iowa, that's where the lifted index is highest, which means from the surface, parcels will be able to quickly move up into the atmosphere over a good chunk of Iowa. And then, of course, where we have cloud cover here over Minnesota, northeastern Iowa and western Wisconsin, the lifted index is much lower to nothing, actually, because of the cloud cover that will not allow the sun to heat the lower layers of our atmosphere. Another map I wanted to show you, this is actually pretty interesting. These are the current surface conditions. I just wanted to show you the difference in the dew points. And I know this is a busy map, but let's just look south here into southern Iowa. And look at these numbers down here. There's 58 down here and a 63 down here in blue. These are dew points. Okay, so you're talking about dew points in the upper 50s and 60s over much of southern and eastern Iowa. Meanwhile, up in Rochester, here in southeastern Minnesota, dew point is 41. Then when you get up into the Twin Cities and Red Wing, for instance, the dew point is 35. So there is no doubt a front located right about here. And it's usually along or just south of that front is where severe weather likes to develop. And I think that will be the case here as we go through the day. And this is actually interesting too here. You get into southeastern Nebraska, dew points have fallen into the 30s. So there's a dry slot that is pushing north and east into Iowa, which of course is indicative of another front, a cool or dry front located right about here. And in between, this is where you get the sandwich. That's the reason why severe weather is expected over much of Iowa. Okay, here's your future radar now. It's from the NAM 3K guidance here, and I'm going to rewind this. And this is from this morning. You can see it had showers and storms moving straight north through much of southern Minnesota. Now, as we get into this afternoon, and here's your timestamp right up here, it's at 4 p.m., so this would be late afternoon. Look, it's showing a squall line, or at least a line of thunderstorms moving through much of southern and eastern Minnesota and into western Wisconsin. So I think the time frame for at least the best opportunity for at least some severe weather and certainly some thunder and lightning will be between 4 and about 9 p.m. this evening. You can see by about 9 or 10 p.m. our atmosphere starts to settle down here over southern Minnesota. But the storm's not done. As we go through the late night hours and into tomorrow morning, you can see another round of precipitation. This could be in the form of some thunderstorm activity, pushes from south to north through eastern Minnesota, and it's not in western Wisconsin. It's not until we get into the afternoon and evening hours tomorrow when our atmosphere dries out here over southern and eastern Minnesota. And by then, we're likely going to have some significant rains. In fact, that's what I have here. Look at all the heavy rain that I'm expecting over southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, and western Wisconsin. So this is going to be, in some locales, some pockets will be receiving rain in excess of 2 to 3 inches of liquid. So that's a lot of rain in a fairly short period of time. Hence the reason why some areas may have to worry about some localized flooding. But of course, we've been dry over the last 6 to 10 months, and it's only just recently we've been getting a decent amount of rain. But still, we may have to keep an eye on some rivers and streams here as we go through the next 24 to 48 hours. Last but not least, let's just take a look at radar and see what's going on here. And here comes that impressive area of thunderstorms. Not severe as of yet, but it's impressive over southern Minnesota. A lot of rain has already fallen out here just west and southwest of the Twin Cities metro. And look at that, more rain coming. And no doubt it's got a beeline for eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. And as mentioned, I'm really keeping an eye down here in Iowa. Look at all the tornado watches that are out. These are these red boxes here. These are tornado watches now for almost the whole state of Iowa. Yes, as these storms develop in central and eastern Iowa, down in the Des Moines area and Cedar Rapids area, they are going to move north, straight north into southeastern and eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Hence the reason why we've got a very active next 12 hours here to play with in Iowa and Minnesota and western Wisconsin. I'm zoomed down into Des Moines now here. And look at these impressive storms. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and just a real good-looking line of storms now developing over Iowa. And I'm still concerned about the back end of these storms as this area here in Iowa clears over the next 3 to 6 hours. There will likely be more redevelopment near or maybe just west of the Des Moines area. But needless to say, it's going to be a busy afternoon, not only in Minnesota and western Wisconsin, but also over Iowa. And as you're looking at radar here over the next 6 to 12 hours, you really want to focus on what's going on down here, because this is the weather that will be moving north into southern and eastern Minnesota and western Wisconsin as we go through time. Okay, that's it. I'll let everybody go. Again, thank you very much, Weather Safe, my friends there, Mike and his team there, for sponsoring this severe weather update. Hey, if things go crazy this evening, I may have another live video or another video for you. So stay tuned and take care, everyone.